All right, welcome to Command School 4. We're going to be going over how to identify a threat in this course. We got some basic things to go over. The first being kind of establishing a baseline awareness and anomaly detection. We're going to go over some pre-attack behavioral indicators. We will also go over verbal and kind of nonverbal threat indicators because there's a difference. We're going to go over environmental situational awareness. And then finally, we're going to go over technology and communication monitoring. All right, cool. So yeah, I'm still Adam and I'm here with Ron, fellow Recon Marine, and we're going to talk about how to identify a threat. One of the first things we're going to talk about is establishing a baseline awareness and anomaly detection. Ron, do you want to talk over kind of the idea of establishing a baseline?
So establishing the baseline is important. Knowing the history of the area, what's around you, and what to look for. It's probably redundant, but being observant. I am taking in all the information and what's around me and previous information that we have of the area, the parking lot, the immediate within about a half a mile, I would say, of the location, what normally happens, what the pattern of life is. That's the baseline that you would normally see. The things you'd normally see is the baseline.
Cool. Yeah, and pattern of life is something that we did a lot in the reconnaissance community when we'd be out in a hide site observing a road or a building or a village. We're just kind of looking for what is normal for that area and then trying to detect what is abnormal because that can help us with our mission and that can help a church security team and their mission of protecting the church.
Hey, so something like wearing heavy clothes, like in the summertime, like it's way too hot for that. You should not be doing that. But it's not just like what they're wearing, it's how they're acting too. If they're actively avoiding eye contact, that could be a baseline change. Like, hey, this person's on I like that. Or these should not be intimidated by me. This is a church. It's a place of worship. We're all welcome here. Like, why is this person acting kind of skittish?
There's also things like observing your parking lot. If there's a suspicious car or a car that's been parked overnight or a car that's making continuous laps around the parking lot, that's kind of something that's out of the normal. It's abnormal. And that's something that would kind of cue you in and maybe perk up your senses a little bit, something to pay attention to.
Yeah, if somebody's like excessively sweating, it's like that's not normal. Normal people don't do that. That's going to break the baseline. That's going to be an anomaly.
So that all kind of leads us into the second topic that we wanted to cover, which is kind of those pre-attack behavioral indicators. You mentioned that if you see somebody like excessively sweating or acting in a weird manner or getting into verbal arguments, that kind of like cues you in. That's like a pre-attack behavior or a potential for a pre-attack behavior, right?
Yeah, that stuff kind of breaks baseline. And you do need to understand the pattern of the congregation, of the people around there. But some of that's just natural human instinct. Like, hey, that's weird. I'm getting a gut feeling. I'm going to go with this gut feeling.
So kind of going along with pre-attack behavioral indicators are those verbal and nonverbal indicators. Kind of threats can come in all shapes and sizes, right? They could be verbal or nonverbal. If someone is like actively speaking out against the church or the pastor and then they show up, you might want to be aware of their kind of position or where they are in the church or how they're behaving that day, right?
Yeah, that's definitely good for the nonverbal. Behavior is going to be huge. And sometimes the verbal is also a huge indicator. Be very wary of like, oh, I'm ready to die, or this is making a statement. Or if they're being overly aggressive, then it should be an immediately red flag, just a trigger like, okay, this is now a problem. I'm going to do something about this. Yeah, so some of the body language too, with the nonverbal, hey, they're clenching their fists, they're pacing excessively, they start refusing simple commands that are polite to them. That could be some huge red flags as well.
Yeah, if they're not really engaging with other parishioners or other people in the church or not making eye contact, things like that, staring at the ground, anything like that is kind of outside of that baseline, right? And it kind of it makes you want to wake up to the situation, just pay attention.
When I was deployed, when we're doing ECPs or something like that, or even if we were on a convoy driving by and there was like a local national set up a vehicle checkpoint, they would give you cues too to what's going on around you. Like you would have a good lay of the land. But if I passed a checkpoint and those guys immediately left, I was immediately calling a halt. That is a break of baseline. Those people are supposed to be there. They've checked everyone else until we passed and they leave. Like that's going to immediately be a red flag. We're going to have to change our actions to combat that. That's a huge one. Yeah. Because the herd mentality type of thing, like we can pick up on cues, maybe not just because of the person, but the people around them too. they might notice something that you don't notice. The normal hapless smiling guy, Steve, he might be like overly happy, always super shaking hands and all this, and now he's acting different. That might trigger, hey, what's going on in this area that he might not know how to relay, but you picked up on his change of behavior.
Okay, so kind of the fourth concept we'll talk about is having that environmental and situational awareness. We've talked about pre-behavior attack indicators and how they can be verbal and nonverbal. Now it's kind of time to pay attention to your environment. And as a security team, you need to be aware of things that might fall out of the ordinary within your church. That could be like a suspicious bag in like a common area, or that random vehicle that keeps driving around, running laps. That's kind of an environmental thing that's out of the ordinary that you should key into.
Yeah, if somebody's like left a vehicle idling, like that's pretty suspicious. If they prop a door open or they come in a pair and one stands by the door, that's not normal behavior. Like something like that would be immediately like, okay, this is my spidey sense is up.
I think it's important too for like a church security team to have an idea of the layout of the church and like the design of the church. What things are typically left out, like is the coat rack usually full, or bags go in a certain area, and then when one of those things falls out of the ordinary, you know that your baseline has been adjusted and you might need to take action on a specific item.
Yeah, and everything isn't an emergency. You might have to politely ask them like, hey, your bag is here. Then that might also give you a cue of, hey, this person made an honest mistake, or it is an actual security threat. All
right, so those four things kind of lead us to the fifth key concept, which is paying attention to technology and communication, or monitoring those assets. And that's usually digital, right? That could be paying attention to Facebook posts, or if there's negative email threads that have been targeted towards the church. Those are things that you need to monitor as a church security team.
Yeah. So for example, if I was to get actual intel downrange, it could change my SOPs. Like, oh, well, now I know I have to search this specific area, or my threat posture is heightened. Something similar to like that could happen in your church, or your team needs to now be aware of that. And it might be through Facebook or emails or calls or a protest outside. Just be aware of that kind of things in the digital domain.
When things like that fall outside of the baseline, it becomes time to pass what we call a situational report, or a sit rep. So when things fall outside of the baseline, you're going to pass those sit reps, and that's something that you're going to learn about coming up in future classes.